This episode is sponsored by Blue Rain Gallery. Blue Rain offers contemporary art from many of the top artists working today, including painters, sculptors, glass artists, and potters. Based in Santa Fe, New Mexico, with an additional gallery location in Durango, Colorado, Blue Rain Gallery has shows year-round that focus on Western art, contemporary realism, modernism, and Native American art. See what they offer and learn about new shows at BlueRainGallery.com. Hi there, and welcome to the American Art Collective podcast. I'm your host today, Michael Clausen, and joining me in our Scottsdale studio is just a friend of our magazines, someone that you may have heard in your own podcast listening, just a really good friend of the magazines. We're happy to have him on. Leroy Garcia, the owner of Blue Rain Gallery in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and in Durango, Colorado. Leroy, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Michael.
We're glad to have you here, and welcome to Scottsdale. I know you made it sort of a special trip out here.
Warming up. Trying to warm up.
Yeah, it's cold in New Mexico.
Yeah, it's 40 degrees in Santa Fe right now.
You used to have a gallery here in Scottsdale. You've probably made that drive hundreds of times.
I still do. Yeah. We still have a lot of clientele here in the valley. Mm-hmm.
I've never made it. I kind of have lucked out. I've flown a lot to Santa Fe. What's it like? You go through...
Well, you go through from Albuquerque to Grants, Gallup. Then there's two ways from there. You can go through Payson or you can go through Flagstaff.
Yeah.
Faster way is usually Payson. Very beautiful in the mountains up there.
Oh, yeah. That's pretty up there. Pretty country.
Yeah.
It's I'm glad you're here. Glad you're enjoying our warm weather.
Yeah.
What's it like in Santa Fe in the winter? I know it's charming. I've been there in December. It's pretty. It seems like everyone celebrates the season, but I can also imagine that it's a little quiet, right?
Well, it is quiet. It is a time that is very reflective because the snow comes, and then you have the decorations in the plaza with faralitos, decorating all the parapets in the roofs over there, and so you get a good sense of the Pueblo Hispanic culture right off the bat.
Something about a Pueblo building with snow on the edges. It's like a magical scene.
It is so beautiful. The Santa Fe Plaza is a magical place in the wintertime.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Very seasonal, though, Santa Fe, would you say? Or
Well, it's different than the summer traffic, but, northern New Mexico has a lot of ski areas, so we get an influx of skiers from that time as well.
Yeah.
Learned that as well from when we started in Taos and then moved to Santa Fe, but it's kind of the same trajectory of tourism.
It seems like there's probably more to do in Santa Fe, and Taos is just an hour away. Why not just stay in Santa Fe and drive up, right?
Well, they do, but Taos has 3 or 4 ski valleys around it. Mm-hmm. Plus all the natural beauty, the canyon, the Pueblo. There's all kinds of things, little museums all over the place. So you can spend 2 or 3 days in that little town and not be too bored.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Last time I was there, they had torn up the plaza. Is the plaza still all torn up?
I haven't been to Taos in a few months, but I had seen that they were fencing it off.
Yeah. Always changing that town, even as old as it is.
They did. I have a story, though. I was in the LA Art Show one time, and I saw a photograph of Dennis Hopper, and he had numbers on him. I said, Taos Police Department. And I have a good friend, David Valdez. He's a movie producer. He was good friends with Dennis as well. And I'm like, David, what happened? But what happened with this picture with Dennis holding this get out of jail, the mugshot. And he's all, one time Dennis, he got crazy and he went out to the plaza and was shooting up all the trees. And so there's probably bullet holes in those trees. They're historic trees. The trees will stay, but everything else will probably change a little bit.
Right. I one time did a deep dive and I started researching a little bit about some of the Taos area, and Dennis Hopper comes up over and over again. His house, they called it the Mud Palace, right? Mm-hmm. And there's stories of him riding his motorcycle through because it had dirt floors, and he would just go tearing through there. All kinds of crazy stories.
When he was a younger guy, he was a little bit on the wild side, to say the least. As he got older, he was more mellow. He used to come into the Taos Gallery, my Taos Gallery, the Blue Rain Gallery there. And he'd sit down and we'd talk about art and stuff. And that's where he actually introduced me to David Valdez, who became one of my good friends as well.
Oh, that's cool. Cool story. A lot of cool. I didn't realize when he died, they had the ceremony was the funeral services was right there at the church, at the famous church.
Yeah.
And they had all these great people, Jack Nicholson and Warren Beatty, and just all these celebrities came out.
St. Francis de Assis.
Yes, yes, the one that's in all the paintings.
Yes, it's one of the oldest churches in the United States.
Wow. So you've mentioned a gallery in Taos. Let's go back to the beginning. When did you first start a gallery?
1993. So we're going on 31 years now.
Wow.
In those days, I started out of my dad's house in El Prado, which is about a mile and a half north of Taos Plaza. And the house bordered the Pueblo boundaries. In fact, it also bordered the North Pueblo entrance. So the house was big. We built it ourselves out of rock and all this cool stuff. Vigas, very traditional inside adobe, but the exterior was all rock. And it was a 2-story. The second story was my old bedroom with my brothers, and it was about 1,000 square feet. So
just your bedroom,
just the bedroom.
Oh my goodness!
But we shared it with 4 boys. That was our little hood over there. But everybody left, and I went to school and stuff, and came back, and I was like, this would be a good place for a gallery. So I built some exterior stairs, and away we went. We started with nothing. I borrowed furniture from my grandma and grandpa, who had rentals. And then my wife at the time, Tammy Garcia, we had some of her family members consign pottery, from Santa Clara Pueblo. And then on my Hispanic side, on my dad's side, his cousins were all wood carvers. And so we had a mixture of wood carvings and pots and a little bit of jewelry here and there. And just what I could afford, I'd buy, a little at a time, and it just built up over time.
Wow. And
eventually we ended up moving to Taos Plaza, I think about 2 years later. And it just kept growing and growing and growing. At one point at Taos Plaza, we had a 10,000 square foot space there before we moved into Santa Fe. And I think that was around 1993, 94, or no, 2003, 2004. And that was another 10,000 square foot. And we had both of those going at the same time. So that was really challenging.
Where did the idea come from? And first of all, how old were you when you started that gallery in your room?
I was around 23.
Wow. And so where did that idea come from?
Well, Tammy was a potter, and I was totally immersed in art just because of her. And I was watching her career, and I was like, I can do this better than what was happening. But at the same time, acknowledging I wasn't at the caliber of a gallery to retain her. But so I'm just start up in a little way and build up. In 1995, 96, one of her top clients decided to deaccess their entire inventory in their house, and that was over 500 major pieces of pottery. It was one of the biggest collections that had hit the market at that time. And that really instantly put us on the map as the forefront of contemporary Native American ceramic art. And so that was kind of the basis of that. But I was going to school at UNM as a pre-law major, political science major. And just watching Tammy, I was like, I lost all interest in school, and I just started reading art books, and just got enmeshed in it. And so, that's where the passion started.
Was the gallery always called Blue Rain? Yeah.
And it's a twofold reason why. The house where we started at borders the Pueblo land, so you see the Taos Mountain. When the clouds come in the summer, the monsoons, it just turns it blue, and it just looks like blue rain. And then on top of that, Tammy's grandmother, the interpretation of her Native American name from Santa Clara Pueblo was Blue Rain. So it kind of fit both ways.
Wow. Mm-hmm. That's cool. So tell us, you had those two spaces. How did things evolve from there?
It got too much. Maintaining 20,000 square feet in two different locations was really difficult. So we eventually gave up Taos about 15 17 years after being in Taos. It paralleled Santa Fe for about 3 years. So it took us about 3 years of torture before we figured let's just stick with Santa Fe.
Yeah. When did you come here? When did you open that Scottsdale gallery?
Scottsdale gallery, I have to think back. Probably 2009, 2010, in that range.
Yeah.
And we were here for about 6 years.
Yeah.
But we left because it's kind of sad what's happened. When I first started in the business 30 years ago, you come to Scottsdale in the winter. It was like Santa Fe in the summer. And it was very vibrant art business here. Vibrant galleries and stuff. And that has seemed to have dissipated. There's a few major galleries left, but it's not like it used to be. And so it's a lot harder market.
Right. And we've heard that too. We've also heard that there's seems to be renewed attention and there's some things happening. We were just at a groundbreaking yesterday for the museum. They're going to expand. So we're hopeful that that Scottsdale could return to what it was. Of course, it's still great, but what it once was.
Yeah.
You've seen you've been in the market long enough. You see sort of markets come and go. I've heard things like that about Taos, where Taos can be hot one decade and then kind of cool the next. What do you attribute those things to? Is it economy? Is it something else?
It's strength in numbers, and when the numbers dissipate, then it gets weak until it rebuilds itself. When we left, after R.C. Gorman had passed away, a couple of other major galleries went by the wayside as well, and it was probably a good time to leave at that point. It seems to have rebounded a little bit in recent years, but it's still, it's still hurting a little bit. But there is so much history there; it's hard to ignore it. It still is a great place.
You've opened Durango not that long ago, and of course you've been in Santa Fe for a long time. How long, the space that you're at right now near the rail yard, how long have you been in that space?
Around 7 years at this point.
It's incredible. It's huge. I love the space and the windows. Windows on basically all sides, right? It's
one of the only places in Santa Fe that was built as an art gallery. Everything else in Santa Fe has been basically retrofitted. There's a couple like Gerald Peters and in that section in there that's built as galleries.
Right.
But at the rail yards where we're at, it's more contemporary. The walls have sheetrock, but under the sheetrock is plywood, so it's you can hang heavy stuff, not destroy your walls. The windows are UV protected. The skylight, which is huge, it's about 30 foot by 30 foot, is retractable.
Oh, wow.
It has a whole bay door. You can drive tractors in there. We had a install for Preston Singletary. We put a 2,000-pound sculpture in the middle of the floor, and we had to have forklifts, but that's what the doors were for. So we had forklifts come in there to install that piece.
I love Preston's work. As you mentioned, we had Preston on the podcast not that long ago. I go into your gallery when you have Preston work up, and it makes me anxious.
Especially with little kids running around there.
Oh, my gosh. All that glass. I mean, it's incredible work. Is it as fragile as it looks?
Yes. Yes and no. Preston's glass is very thick, but all glass is penetrable when it hits another hard object, whether it's granite or concrete. I remember one year we had at Indian Market, we had opening for Tammy, and we had about 500 people in the gallery, and one of the people in there decided to put a coffee cup next to Preston Singletary. And you can imagine the noise of having 500 people in a space. You can hear nothing until she went up for her coffee and smacked a piece of glass off, and it went whoosh. Silence.
Oh, no.
Silence. So it can happen, yeah.
Oh, I've always wondered what happens in those situations. Do you... maybe you don't want to say it, but
I get a little ticked off, but I just have to breathe, and it's an accident. And
I mean, do insurance cover that, or does it?
we have insurance for that type. It's funny, as you grow in business, you have to have more and more insurance.
Right.
Well, when we started with Preston, his work was $1,000 to $3,000, and now it's like $20,000 on up. So, yeah, you have to have insurance.
I mean, his totems are six figures now, right?
Well, the big totem on that floor was $850,000.
Oh my goodness! We did not talk numbers. I know that embarrasses artists. They don't like to talk about that, but it's fun to imagine. Almost $1 million worth of glass. That's incredible.
Yeah.
You have had a long relationship with Preston, and we talk about Blue Rain on the podcast. How do you find artists? How do you find artists like Preston or others? I mean, we're going to talk about a couple others like Chris Papan. I don't know if I'm saying his name right, but where do you find your artists?
Most of the time these days they find us just because of our reputation, but sometimes they're referred by other artists or appraisers or collectors. Sometimes I just going through Instagrams or I'm going through magazines and I'm seeing what catches my eye, and if they fit our model of what I like, we'll bring them in. And usually that format is about innovation and refinement. A lot of artists are innovative, but they're not as refined. So you kind of have to be patient, just watch them, let them grow a little bit. But some have both, and that's the perfect way to find them. And when I saw like Preston, for example, I saw that immediately. I saw innovation. I don't know that he was perfectly refined at the time, but you could see he was getting there really fast. And boy, did he take off. We say that it took about 25 years in the Blue Rain system. Mm-hmm. But that's been a constant, innovation and refinement for anything that I put in there. Our landscape artists usually are very different. Doug West, like pointillistic. If you look at his work, you're like, how the heck does this guy do it? But it's nothing nobody else wants to do because it's too labor intensive.
Right.
And so it's things like that I'm looking for.
Well, the gallery represents so many great artists. And we talk about this internally, and we've talked about this with you as well. You have artists that can appear in our Native American art magazine. You have artists that can appear in our American art collector magazine, more contemporary artists. And then, of course, you have Western artists. So you really, those are the things that people go to Santa Fe for, right?
Right.
Contemporary realism, Native American art, Western art.
Yeah.
And you got all of them.
We're very eclectic. If you went to my house, you'd see the same thing. It's just a mixture of all kinds of different mediums, Western heritage, whatever, Native American, contemporary.
Do you feel like the gallery has a mission, or what are you looking for?
I'll stick with that. Innovation with refinement.
Right.
That really sums it up. We sometimes will see a trend developing, and we'll stick with it because of the same dynamics. And I'll give you an example. Bringing Preston in. He introduced us to other artists in glass, and these artists were already polished, innovatively different, and refined, and so it was an easy transition to bring in a whole glass movement to northern New Mexico. And then we ended up focusing on the native end of the glass. And that's become a whole new movement has started pretty much, I would say, through Blue Rain Gallery. After 25 years of educating people and working with Preston, it's blessed our gallery. So we brought in people now like Raven Sky River, Dan Friday, and a few others. And they're really growing. They're blossoming. And it's been fun to watch.
And I know there's other galleries that offer glass art, but the extent that you guys do is really remarkable.
Yeah, not to the extent we do.
Yeah.
I think, Lou Allen and a few others might have a little bit of glass here and there, but not like Blue Rain. We have a good stable of some of the best glass artists you can find.
I feel like one of my first articles I wrote about you, that you're a gallery. You guys still represent Rick Allen?
Yeah.
He does like the little spaceships and glass and things.
Rick Allen has introduced us to more billionaires than you can think of. Especially, we can't name the names, but they're all in the space race.
Oh, really? They all. There's some names that our listeners might think of. Take a guess.
Yeah.
Really unique work, though, and I just remember really early on thinking this is really neat. And then, of course, art glass. There's a long history with art glass.
Well, in the Rick Allen, we can go through that, but Rick Allen is very unique because he has this like retro Buck Rogers style of blowing glass rockets, and they're amazing.
And sort of the union with glass and also metal, right? It's metal and glass together.
Yeah. He's actually been experimenting more and more with metal, so we'll see where his journey ends up. But
nice.
He just did some public projects in, I think, Seattle, some steel sculptures of squid.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he has a great imagination.
Well, on this subject of artists, are there other artists that you're really excited about? Maybe new ones that you've recently found or that you recently started to represent?
Yeah, Raven Sky River is one of those that people should pay attention to. He's a glass artist. He's Tlingit, like Preston. He's been blowing glass for a long time, since, what did he say, like 13 years old or so? I can't remember. I'll have to go back to my podcast and figure that one out. But he first started working for Karen Willenbrink, and then who was on the team of William Morris. So he got his hands in there right off the bat with the best. And he's one of the best figurative sculptors out there. I'll also say that Rick Allen's wife, Shelley Allen's also one of the best figurative sculptors out there. They're incredible.
Oh, that's great. The work at the gallery is always fun to look at. You guys get new stuff pretty frequently. I feel like you're always...
It's Christmas every day.
Right, yeah. That's remarkable.
We have, and we sell through it pretty quick for the most part. And some artists are hotter than others, and but the art market, it ebbs and flows. Sometimes you can have the glorious year, and then the next year, like, what happened? So it's hard to keep that rhythm, but we work at it.
On the Western side, of course, you represent a number of great artists. Dennis Szymanski's one. We love his work.
Billy Shank.
I feel like I should ask you, do you have any Billy Shank stories? That guy...
Billy Famous?
Any Billy Famous stories?
Oh, no. That guy is an incredible... He is a historic figure. People should pay attention to him. He, the king of Western pop art, starting... alongside the Andy Warhol era, and influence through the Velvet Underground and stuff. He has an amazing history, but he's studied the West. He loves the West, and he's actually a cowboy. You go to his house, and you'll see his trophy buckles. Professional. A sorter. I guess he's a grand champion sorter, and his partner Rebecca. They're just beautiful people.
I've heard great stories. He still rides. He's out there all the time. He knows his stuff.
He doesn't quit. And he's an avid collector and historian and book writer. I mean, he covers it all.
I've been in his house. I was in his house 2 years ago during market weekend in August, and I was blown away. His collection is great. The paintings, the pots, the Molesworth furniture. I was impressed with. I'm a movie guy, so he showed me. He's like, "Yeah, this is my closet with movies," and it was just floor to ceiling DVDs of old westerns that I mean, I probably knew every third one. There was so many movies in there that I've never heard of. That he knows all of them.
He researches everything, man. He's very innovative. I really love him for that. He's been good, and he has shared his style, and he's been very open how he does it. Good friends with Logan Hajij as well. He's had his influence on the market.
Oh, without a doubt. Now, has he been on your podcast yet?
Yeah. He was actually my first podcast.
Oh, what wonderful.
Yeah, I wanted to start with the best.
Yeah, and you did. You definitely did. We've kind of talked about it. Like, maybe Billy would do it. I'm sure he would. He would. He loves to talk about the things that he's been involved with.
He has so much knowledge. It's incredible.
He's a really sort of a historic part of Santa Fe.
Yes,
he's got a great spot of land out there, and he just sort of represents Santa Fe really well. But going more broad, just about the region and about Santa Fe, why do you think it's held its place in the art world for so long?
Well, I don't know if when the last time you were there, if you looked at the sunlight and the landscapes as the sun comes up or it goes down. The aesthetic of the natural light in that area is just amazing. It's what brought all the painters from the East Coast over, the Taos founders and Santa Fe founders, and it has stuck since. Yeah. And it's because of the light. It's a painter's world out there. And then you throw in the historical content of the Hispanic and the Pueblo cultures. It's a treasure trove of imagery to paint.
I love walking up Canyon Road and all those historic buildings, and it's like you just, this is where this artist painted and this artist, and it's just like a who's who of Western art.
You can always tell those painter studios because they have bays of windows. You know, so it's kind of fun.
Have you ever attempted art? Are you an artist?
Yeah. I sculpt. Actually, I was assistant for Tammy for many years before I got the gallery started going boom. I couldn't do everything, so we hired my mom and then more staff for her, and I kind of dissipated into the gallery. But I've done a few pieces since. I've done a series of skulls that I've released in bronze and glass, and I've done a series of tiles that I've carved and produced in bronze.
Nice. Yeah. And the gallery is a family run of venture. Your daughter Leah is now a part of it.
Yeah, my daughter Leah is now the head of marketing for Blue Rain Gallery and is doing a fabulous job. I'm so impressed with her. And,
I will have to say that I'm impressed with her too. She's the person that I deal with on a day-to-day basis.
She's hardcore.
She's great. She's so good.
She doesn't drop anything. And then my middle daughter Elena has been working for us as salesperson as well. So, and then my youngest daughter is in the military. She's in Air Force.
Excellent. Now, any of them artists, whether full-time or on the side?
Leah is an artist, and her field is photography, and she loves that. And she does cyanotypes, and she loves that. And but they all can draw and they all can paint, and so we'll see. As life goes, we don't know what happens.
Right.
But they have a foundation of it. They've been surrounded by art their entire lives.
Yeah. That's great. I'd love to know, you have the inside scoop on how galleries work. What do people not realize about galleries and the role that they serve in the market?
Well, that's a good question because there's a lot of other things that are contributing to the decline of galleries. But galleries are important because they're there to invest in the artist. They're there to invest and to help grow and protect the prices. And that's the basic way I can just say it. Mm-hmm. We're not a discount house. We're not there to deflate anything. We're there to protect and to invest in, and to protect everybody's investment. And lately, what I see is just hordes of work going to auction houses and getting deflated pennies on the dollar, and it's really sad. But it's probably because there is an excess amount of work right now. That's hovering in the market.
I've heard people say there's just too many artists. Is it different than that, though?
No, I think there's formulas that work. I think if you're overproductive and making too much work, I think if you have a long career, you end up, going against yourself. You're competing with yourself because the secondary market's a wave right behind you. So if you would just work on special pieces, limit your supply, that will and increase the demand. That's the key. It's just simple economics.
You saying auctions can be a frightening place for an artist. Mm-hmm. We've heard that as well. Mm-hmm. These artists, they make something, it sells for one price. 10 years later, they put it, the owner that bought it puts it out in an auction format, mm-hmm. and the thing sells for less, and it really puts that artist's prices in danger. Was that what you're referring to?
That's exactly what happens, yeah. And I think what happens is that when people de-access, their first choice is, hey, kids, do you want all this stuff? And the kids are like, no, we just want the money. Okay. So when they pass on, they're like, what do we do with this stuff? We want the money. So they just send it to the auction house. They don't really care. And auction houses are just about, moving product in mass, so in volume. And they don't really care about retaining price unless it's a very special, unique piece, right? And that's that gets back to the old formula. But if you're over prolific over the years, you're going to end up, that's probably going to be the scenario. We encourage our collectors to consign to the gallery so we can protect those prices, and they get a lot more than they would ever think about in the auction houses.
And the artists that they love are not being harmed in this, prices
Correct.
And things.
Correct. We don't want to harm anybody.
Right.
These people, a lot of them have worked 30, 40 years on a career, and it's sad to see that some of the work goes in auction houses at 20 cents on the dollar. And that's it hurts me as a dealer that's been caring about this for a long time.
What do you think galleries bring, for a collector? They're probably thinking, well, the prices are good at the auction. Why shouldn't I go there? What do you think how would a gallery sway them away from that?
Well, what's funny is a collector would probably buy something at an auction, and then the next thing doing is calling us for appraisal. I'm like, you just deflated the market. That what you paid is what it's worth.
Right.
You know, it's a quandary. I mean, there's a place for it, and there's a place for auctions, but it seems like everybody's going into auctions now, and it's creating a little bit of destruction in the marketplace, and it's destructive also to the gallery system as well, because people are refusing to be patient and protect those prices. It's not in their interest. They just want the quick money.
One thing I've heard from collectors who do enjoy using the gallery, this is what puts them in touch with the artist directly, because they're buying from the artists, maybe not the artist directly, but through their representation, which is you. Right. And the shows are important, and I mean they have the first dibs at what could be major pieces of art. I mean, are those pluses for gallery? Is that what you see as sort of the benefit of a gallery?
Well, the benefit of a gallery again is to protect those prices, but it's also to elevate and get focus. Right? We're in your magazines, or we're in the radio shows or TV, whatever. That's our job to bring recognition, to bring the demand up. And as long as you have high quality and they're not just whooping it out like a cookie cutter, you can have a successful career. But you also have to be careful in how you manage that career and where those pieces go and what's going to happen to them.
I hear a lot from artists, especially new artists. They're so hesitant to get involved with a gallery because they think, the gallery's going to take a portion of the sale, which happens, but that's how it works. They promote your work. What's your pitch to artists when they're on the fence? Like, I don't know if I want to do that. Maybe I just want to do commissions and sell from my website. There's got to be what do you tell them? Well,
I'll give you a little bit of an example. In the Hispanic cultural art, the religious art, like the bultos and retablos, some of that stuff is so beautiful. It's well done, well executed. It's not overproduced. And they have an anti-gallerist sentiment in the community. For that same reason you just quoted, they don't want to share the cut, or they think that the gallery shouldn't have this. Yet, if you look at their prices, they're not increasing. The top artists in that market are like maybe $5,000 to $8,000 at the max. Very few get over that. The few Hispanic artists that have stuck with the galleries, instead of going that direction, like the market shows, have actually increased. I think a good example of that is Nicolas Herrera. And he's only been through the galleries. He left the booth a long time ago, and his stuff can hit the $20,000 range. That's the difference. But to explain that, it's hard. People have to let go of ego, and there has to be trust. If you don't have trust, it won't work, because you always be second guessing.
Right.
And that's part of the problem. But I gave the example in the Hispanic, but you can apply that through all the genres. It's the same thing.
But the gallery and galleries, we see this across the market. The galleries are out there fighting for those artists.
Yeah.
They're doing everything they can. You've told us that the work that you've done promoting your artists is just beyond the charts here. I mean, you go to great expense to make these artists household names, to get their work seen, right?
Yep. Yes. We have one of the larger advertising budgets, and we always have in the Southwest. And it's for that reason. And that's the other thing. So there's an ethical quandary, too. Sometimes you get artists that they want to be in your gallery for the name recognition, but at the same time, they still have their foot out. So there's ethical quandaries of direct sales, and so it becomes difficult to keep investing sometimes when there's not that equal commitment back. But it comes back to the trust element. Well, if you want somebody to invest in you, what are you willing to do for that?
Right.
And so I always get people like, I want to be like Tony Abeta or Tammy Garcia or Preston Singletary. I'm like, oh, really? Well, do you realize they were in the gallery system for the last 25 years? They didn't really do booths. And there wasn't a direct access. You maintained that integrity with your gallery, and that gallery protected those prices and elevated them. And then think about like Preston Singletary. He bought into that. Like I say, when he started with this $1,000 to $3,000 range, and now it's way up there to the $800,000 range.
We're talking about prices. Let's talk about prices. For anyone who's not aware of how it works, how do you begin to set prices for things? And the question that we get from a lot of people is how are prices raised? I know that's a very careful thing that galleries and artists do together when it comes time to raise prices. But generally, how do you sort of perceive prices?
If you don't see the work on the wall, it's time to price it up a little bit. Right. So it's just supply demand economics. It's simple stuff. If you see like 400 pieces of the same thing, you're in the artist comes to say, I want to raise my prices. You're like, well, what kind of sense does this make when we have 40 pieces in the inventory?
You need to sell a little bit more. Right?
Yeah. And so it's easy to go up, but you cannot come down.
Right.
And if you do come down, you're hurting all the people that invested in the higher. And so it's a balancing act. And I think the message to an artist is be creative, create, and let the galleries manage the career, because that's what we do. And we're really good at it. And most galleries are.
Yeah. Do you have to ask, I'm certainly not suggesting that you tell your artists what to paint, but do you give them free reign, or do you say, hey, I'd like to do a landscape show or things like that?
Sometimes we'll do a theme show, but I will never tell anybody how to create anything. I don't believe in that. Even in commissions, I have problems sometimes because people are like, I want this, and can you put this on that? And I'm like, you're not going to get what you like if you take away the artistic integrity of what you're looking for.
Right.
And that's also another trust issue.
Well, we talked about market, and you were mentioning the booths. Santa Fe Indian Market is a big event for Santa Fe in August.
Yes.
You're a little bit, you're not on the plaza, you're a little bit further away. Do you enjoy sort of not being in the chaos of the plaza where you can kind of curate and do your own thing?
Yes. I love Indian Market. I think it's a special time, and I'm not trying to demean anybody that's going to the booths. There are sometimes too many artists to be maintained by the galleries, and a lot of these folks have carried on traditions for thousands of years, and it's important that they have that time to do that. And it's one of the bigger draws to the state for tourism, so we all have to participate in that in a symbiotic nature, and that's important to realize and understand. We're all in this together. It's not one side or the other. It takes all of us to make it happen.
And you guys always put on a great show in August.
Well, we have fun. We always bring in Preston and Dan Friday and now Raven to do glass blowing demonstrations. That's how we actually helped grow the glass industry in New Mexico, was bringing these little hot shops and showing people like the process of glass. And it's amazing. I've been in the hot shop many times working with Preston, but even to this day, I can still sit there mesmerized by like, ooh.
Yeah. Oh, I'm with you there. There's something just magical about that. Yeah. It feels like they're like wizards. They're next to that furnace pulling that glass out. It's remarkable how that works.
It is fun. It's one of the more well-attended events, I think, in Santa Fe sometimes during the Indian Market.
You guys do, and I've heard other people say, you'll do a ton of business in August. August is sort of like, everyone waits around for August. But I've been in your gallery in other times of the year, and you seem to always have people in there.
Yeah, when in the first, I'm separating the journey of Blue Rain into two halves, because the first half was Tammy, Tony, Preston, and then the second half is this other thing. But during that first half with the Tony, Preston, Tammy era, about 50% of our income would come in a week. And which is a blessing, but if you don't get that, it can be a cursing too.
Right.
So I have worked really hard to diversify through the year, because I don't want to put all my marbles on 1 week of the year. And we still do whatever we can for Indian Market. It's still very successful, but the rest of our year is just as successful.
And, there's other events. I was just recently in Santa Fe. I had to fly into Albuquerque, and the balloon festival is going on.
That is actually the largest draw to the state of tourism. Right. It didn't used to be, but it is surpassed the Indian Market by. There's over. I bought a little booth for one of the Ascensions in the Balloon Museum this year for my family, and I was shocked. There was probably 100,000 people on the field.
I mean, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe how crowded
I couldn't
Albuquerque
believe
was.
it. I've been living in Albuquerque for 15 years, and I've never been there. It's like, because I don't want to be around traffic, but I didn't realize how much traffic. But that's a lot,
right? Oh, yeah. I mean, exciting things in New Mexico. And New Mexico, for whatever reason, New Mexico has been advertising a lot here in Arizona. Like their CVB is doing the, come to New Mexico. And it's great. It seems like Arizona is a great place to you see those and you kind of go, I got to get to Santa Fe. It's been a bit. But I love that the Southwest is so represented there in that state, whether you're in Gallup or Albuquerque or Santa Fe or Taos. It's a gorgeous place to visit.
Yeah, it is. It's beautiful mountains and canyons and everything you could think of. Most people think, like, when you tell them you're from New Mexico, they're like, do you guys speak English? Or isn't it all full of sand? No, it's high mountain desert, and it's at the base of the Rocky Mountains. It's beautiful. Beautiful.
We're talking about New Mexico. Let's go away from New Mexico for a second. You mentioned the LA Art Show. How long have you been doing that?
Whew. Since about 2008 or so, in that range. So a long time.
Yeah.
And I've seen it grow and fall and grow. There's new ownership now there, and we're looking forward to seeing how this goes this year.
Nice.
We're going to be doing that in February. I forget what the date is, but it's the second weekend of February, I think.
Yeah, we're going to try to get this out before then, so people can know they can swing by the booth.
We're going to bring Jim Bogle and Dennis Aminsky, Robin Jones, and a few others over there. Yeah, so it'll be an interesting booth.
They sometimes have celebrity hosts. I've seen celebrities there. It's been kind of fun.
Well, I've met all kinds of people. Cheech Marine, Kevin Nealon. James Franco. I mean, I tell my daughters all these stories of people that have come by my booth who I talked to. Julia Roberts, a few others. Yeah.
Oh, that's remarkable. I think Julia hosted, she was like they always choose one celebrity to like be the host that year, right? Was she one of those?
No, she's never been the host. She's actually very discreet.
Yeah.
Very, very quiet person. Very, very wonderful human being.
We know they collect art. We hear these stories too. It's always exciting. I'm sure you've placed art in some really, really nice collections. Yeah. I know I'm not going to even ask you, but I know that it's happened.
I wish I could say. Too many NDAs, man.
Oh, completely.
Yeah, especially from those billionaires.
Oh, I bet. What? Let me ask you this, because you've seen. I imagine you take some of these pieces to the homes. Mm-hmm. What distinguishes a collection like that? What are some things that maybe some lower level collectors could learn from collections like from the billionaires and the millionaires? What are they doing? Are they just presenting the art different? Are they buying more of it? What's this?
Well, some of the billionaires are disconnected from their collecting, even though they have interest in it. They'll tell their acquisition companies. Like, we worked with Paul Allen before he passed away, and his acquisition company is Vulcan. So I'm not sure exactly what Vulcan has in there, but I'm sure it's pretty intense and a big collection. But you can also go into a billionaire's home some of these billionaires will come and buy it on their own. Like Tom James. He's one of these people that is just down to earth, but he's not going to send anybody necessarily out there to buy. He's going to buy what he likes. So he comes out and he buys for himself for the museum. And
this is for anyone listening, this is the James Museum of Western Art in St. Petersburg, Florida. It's gorgeous.
Yes.
My publisher just got back from there. He's like, that is an amazing museum.
It's a beautiful museum, and that's all. Tom is a down-to-earth guy. He only collected living artists, and so all those pieces you see were collected pretty much directly from galleries that represented living artists or from the living artists directly. He did a great job. He has great taste. And then other collectors in that league, they're very eclectic, and sometimes they just buy what they like. And so you can see a Casagrandes pottery, which is very beautiful, next to, say, a $200,000 Tammy Garcia piece. So, there's sometimes not balance. And a lot of times, the greatest collectors you think are greatest collectors, when you go into their home, it's like that. it's a mixture of all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. So, do you, as a gallery owner, do you recommend that someone help them curate, or is that okay? Is that sort of collecting where you have, your $200 item that you got while on vacation next to a $200,000 piece?
I think that's what goes on. That's what goes on. Sometimes they're insecure because they're wanting to collect, but they're not sure. They need somebody to educate them. I'll give you another example. I had a museum from the East Coast, and the director calls me. He's like, Leroy, I have a client that wants to consult with you about contemporary Native art because they don't know anything. And so I'm okay. Well, next time, just let us know when. He said, we'll be there tomorrow. So they're on their jet. I picked him up in Taos. I took him to dinner, and the gentleman leans over. It's Peter Lynch, who started the Fidelity Mutual. Mm-hmm. And he comes in, and we're sitting down at dinner. He's like, Leroy, can me and you just go to the gallery? I go, yes. So I'm like, everybody, you stay here. We're going. And we get to the gallery, and there was no consulting. He's like, I want this, and I want that, and I want this and that. And, that's how it went. And those are the ones I really like because they're passionate. Mm-hmm. He knows what he liked, and I have a lot of those type of clients.
And we're talking about billionaires and people who can afford a lot, but I've been in your gallery and I've seen the prices on the wall. It's a great. Certainly you've got some great pieces for high end collectors. You have stuff also for first time collectors. Mm-hmm. The galleries it has a lot, and I know a lot of galleries in Santa Fe. They kind of cater to a lot of different collectors, but you're definitely one of them.
Well, I have currently a good example of that is our pottery collection. We have we're close to 1,000 pots in our inventory right now. But you can find pottery in our gallery from $200 all the way up to hundreds.
And as a collector, that's great because
it's great for a beginning collector. Everybody has to start somewhere,
right?
Even my best collectors, and they come out here, they stop in Flagstaff or whatever, and they buy a little pot. I did a podcast. It's called The $1 Million Pot, and these collectors, two of my best friends, they bought a little tiny pot, and before I knew it. They had amassed millions of dollars of pottery and paintings and stuff. But it starts like that. It just starts with a little something, and it just grows as they grow. And I suppose when they first bought that little pot, they weren't at the economic levels that they are today. I have two clients. They're both in that other Ultra League. But when I started the gallery in Taos upstairs, I had $200, $300 pots. And these two collectors, they didn't know each other, but they come in, they'll buy $200, $300 pot. And then all of a sudden they disappeared. 20 years later, one of them shows up and he's out, Leroy, I'd like to see that Tony Day turtle. I'm like, the last time you buy anything was like $300, $400. This turtle is $150,000. He's all, yeah, I'd like to see that turtle. I'm like, okay, I pull it out. He's all, how much is that? I go, it's $150,000. So let me get my checkbook. And that happens all the time. Yeah. So they start off small and then they grow in their careers. They're educating themselves along the way. And the guy knew exactly what he was buying. It was beautiful, one of the best Tony Day turtles ever made. Beautiful.
That's remarkable. Mm-hmm. That's a great story. And we hear those stories here at the magazine, just people learning, sometimes on their own, sometimes they become patrons at a museum and they learned, but
they're no different than me. Think
right.
about it. When I met Tammy and I was hardcore into my political science, and you just get passion, and that collecting is no different than an artist making. An artist, you can't go to an artist and say, "Hey, stop making that," because they have too much passion. They're going to just keep making
right.
it. They're going to get rid of you. They're just like keep making. Well, the thing that parallels that is the passion to collect. And that's just as intense. And some of these guys, that's why when we get collections, sometimes they're 500 to 1,000 deep because their passion is so heavy. And they've blessed a lot of souls along the way. A lot of those artists have really been blessed from them and their passion.
Well, I can feel the passion from you and what you're doing. I can tell that you love what you do. We've talked with you a number of times. I've seen you at the LA Art Show. I've seen you all around Santa Fe and at your different galleries. You've always been very passionate about your artists, about the artwork you show, and it really shows. It really shows you enjoy what you do, right?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we've worked hard at it. And, my staff has been with me over 20, 25 years. We've done shows all over the United States. My first show on the road that I ever did was in Washington, D.C. in 1999. And people still come to the gallery and say, I remember when you were in Washington, D.C. And, the concept of that, I figured we were becoming old news where we were at, so I needed to get out of town to get new news. And when we went to Washington, D.C., we got a write-up in the Washington Post. We were invited to a morning talk show for, I brought a Tammy Garcia pot and a Maria pot, and, they gave me 20 minutes on air.
Oh, my goodness.
And before we knew it, we had like 5,000 people showing up at the door. But yeah, we've done a lot of sacrifice like that. I had actually, to do that, I maxed out all my credit cards. I think the show back then was only like 30,000, what my credit cards could handle. Yeah, but we did it. And we just risked everything and just went for it.
That's great. That's really great. Mm-hmm. Before we go, I don't want to. I want to give you the opportunity to let people know of your website, blueraingallery.com. Is that right?
Yeah.
And you and I were just talking not that long ago. You have your entire schedule up for the whole year
under the events page. Yeah.
Under the events page. So if anyone wants to know about your shows, definitely need to go check that out. Yeah. You got a lot going on.
There's the events page, our podcast page on the menu bar, and also another thing that we innovated was bluerainprintshop.com, which is our gallery store of products, and that's become very, very successful as well. Bring art into your everyday life.
Nice. So you definitely check out blueraingallery.com. If you're in Santa Fe, stop in and see Leroy at the rail yard, or if you're in Durango, swing by Blue Rain Gallery in Durango, Colorado. Leroy, it's been a pleasser having you on. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it.
It's awesome. Definitely go check out his work. Wait a minute. You do sell some of your work now, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So check out his work. Check out his gallery. And to our listeners, thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed what you just heard. Please rate and subscribe to the American Art Collective podcast, and follow us on social media at the American Art Collective for behind-the-scenes photos, deals, and much, much more. And we will catch you on the next episode. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.